it is the key to the fourth industrial revolution. So that's what I have given the title. Um, Let us see whether it is key for the fourth industrial revolution, so-called Industry 4.0. Additive manufacturing is also called as 3D printing. So you have a very popular name for this is 3D printing. And of course, the title of this course is also, it is like RPT, right? It's rapid prototyping technologies. So it is also called as rapid prototyping. It was the earlier name. Um, this technology used to called as rapid prototyping also. So in my presentation, 3D printing, additive manufacturing, rapid prototyping. So these you treat it as synonyms. So uh, in this lecture, I have planned my content in this way. So let us start why 3D printing is needed under these circumstances. So a bit of why it is needed under these circumstances, and we'll compare the conventional versus additive manufacturing practices. Is there any advantage of additive manufacturing than a conventional that we'll discuss? And what is 3D printing? So means what are the various steps involved in this 3D printing? And of course, we'll discuss some of the 3D printing processes. Um, Maybe I have given 1.5 hour time. So let us see like how many processes we can discuss. But my focus is not on the processes actually. So just I will give the glimpse of the 3D printing processes, and of course applications of the 3D printing technology, and a bit of activities at NIT Warangal, what we do under this space that is 3D printing. So that also we'll discuss. And now we are under the pandemic that is COVID-19. So under COVID-19 pandemic, so what is the role that should play the 3D printing or the 3D printing community as such? So that also we'll discuss the role of 3D printing under this COVID-19 pandemic. And finally, we'll discuss what could be the future of this 3D printing technology. So this much I have planned for this session. So let me move to the next one. That's so why 3D printing. So why you are needed a 3D printing technology. So that is the point here to discuss why 3D printing is needed. So then we need to recollect the industrialization. So the history of industrialization, like if you see the time scale that is during the 1780s to 1860s. So that was the first industrial revolution, when the cottage industry or when the James Watt invented the steam engine, probably um, the energy used was steam or a water. So the idea of this industry 1.0 is the mechanization, means replacing the human muscle power with some machines. That's called as a mechanization. So nothing but a mechanical production systems has came into picture during the first revolution of industry. Then second industrial revolution, that is purely the steam and water power is replaced with electric power. And of course, the concept of assembly lines, so where the Henry Ford at Ford Company, so he started the assembly line concept. So that was the second industrial revolution called Industry 2.0, that is during 1870s to 1960. But whereas coming to the third industrial revolution, it is very popular. Why? Because where the computers or the automation in such. So the third industrial revolution was the automation, and where the electronics, information technology, and PCs, that is personal computers, were the breakthroughs during third industrial revolution, that is 1970s to 2010. And now we are in the fourth industrial revolution called Industry 4.0. So what Industry 4.0 consists of? So as we know that nowadays you have a driverless cars, it's about to come. So then you have a very good scope for the autonomous systems in the Industry 4.0, and the computing is now the data is in the form of a cloud, and the computing is also based on the cloud computing. So that is the another area where in Industry 4.0. And of course the system integration is another area where in the you will be integrating all the systems in the factory, or in your smart factory, otherwise called as. And of course simulations is another area where we need to simulate a lot of stuff before going to the actual manufacturing scenario. So then simulation is another area where playing a vital role in Industry 4.0. And of course, as we know that the Internet of Things called IoT. So IoT is another area where is playing a vital role to control the machines or to control any kind of systems, automated systems, or cyber physical systems through your mobile, or remotely you can even control. So you have an Internet of Things, and of course, augmented reality, virtual reality. You have another area under the Industry 4.0. Of course, you need to do a lot of data analysis. That data is in the form of a big data. So now you have a big data analysis is another area. And of course, cyber security. As you are know that this is about the digital data. So then that is in a web-based or cloud-based data. Then we need to secure your data. That's what we need to have a foolproof cyber security system to protect the data. So, and of course, the last but not the least, so then what could be the manufacturing under this Industry 4.0? So, no doubt it's going to be the additive manufacturing. So, that's what from the survey from ABI Research, they are saying that AM systems will produce, say, 2 trillion worth of parts and end products by 2030. So this was a simple projection given by. So what I am trying to say at this point of time, additive manufacturing is the manufacturing in case of Industry 4.0, means your manufacturing is getting shaped to additive manufacturing, and it's going to play a vital role under this Industry 4.0. And further, if you see the survey, what the various surveys are telling, so 3D printing or additive manufacturing market and the opportunities, if you see the forecast of the various companies like Deloitte, or you have a Marketers Media, or Forging, or IDC, and ABA Research, just now we discussed, and various surveying agencies, what they're telling is 3D printing is going to be the disruptive manufacturing sector. So that is what it's going to be. And of course, it is going to be 12 trillion manufacturing market. It's going to be. So that is the where we need to know. These are some of the predictions, and which is heavily depends on your assumption, and including included technologies, what we discussed in the previous slide. So this is what the additive manufacturing is going to be play a vital role under this Industry 4.0. So with that background, so then why additive? Why can't it be a conventional manufacturing process? Let us discuss. So the difference between the conventional manufacturing systems and the additive manufacturing systems. So, and if you recollect the classification of manufacturing systems, we can broadly classify them as a subtractive. Subtractive, as you know, that example is machining. So where we need to take the raw material as a bar stock of raw material, and then we need to use some tools to remove or to subtract or to continuously removing the material from the raw material as a stock bar stock of material, and with the help of the tools, and we need to remove a lot of material in order to get your required size and shape. And of course sometimes we need to design and fabricate a fixtures to hold your workpiece. So like that, the major concern here in the subtractive is a scrap. So means depends on the complexity. So the complexity is directly proportional to your the amount of scrap. So that is the major concern. Of course, we need to check for the tools, jigs, fixtures, and so on and so forth. And even if you change your design from a simple step to a cup like this. So then if you want to do machine, or if you want to use a subtractive process to machine this kind of a cup, so then what are the constraints we need to consider, or say, and then we need to start with a bar stock of material, as we know that, and then we need to have, there is a too, the cavity is too deep here. So then what kind of a tool and how the tool will be approaching, so that is the first constraint. And of course you have an undercut here where we can see, so this is an undercut. So at this undercut, so then it requires a minimum 3 axes of machine to tackle this kind of complexity. And of course, we need to design and fabricate a fixture to hold at the bottom. So then we need to look for the fixture also to hold this workpiece. And of course, which you have a very sharp internal feature here. So, and then we need to go with the tool radius compensation and things like that. So these are the constraints, or these are some of the things which we need to plan very much well before starting to your subtractive process. But whereas if you want to do the same thing through additive manufacturing, so then we doesn't bother about whatever the constraints which we discussed previously. But what we need in the additive is, so just you say you have a simple step like this, so I can discretize into layers. Say I can have a layer 1 and layer 2, and by using some kind of energy source, so then I can bond these 2 layers. So that's what you do in the additive manufacturing. So then we need not worry about the tools, we not about the jigs fixers, and no scrap literally. Why? Because you are adding as for the requirement. So you are not removing anything else here. So, and of course you may have other kind of manufacturing system called as a formative. So in the formative, for example, you have a forging or a casting, so which we need to make a die of the shape which you are looking to fabricate. So then we need to design and fabricate a die for each and every component which you want to go with the formative process. And again, you may use a subtractive process to make the die. So then here in the case of a formative process, we need to look for the die, design and fabricate. But in case of additive, even you doesn't require any die to design and fabricate. Just we need only the machine and the digital model or the CAD model of your part. So, and then you may get doubt, then what could be the cost of this additive manufacturing if you compare with the formative and the subtractive processes. And of course, if you draw the graph between the cost per part and the number of parts, and if you see the trend for the formative or the subtractive, almost like you can find some kind of a similar trend where if you increase the number of parts, and of course your cost per part may be reducing exponentially. But that is not the case in case of additive manufacturing. So it may not be reducing drastically, but it is like a straight line, almost a bit of sloping downwards. Maybe the trend we can expect from the additive manufacturing, the cost versus the number of parts. So, but let me introduce one more parameter called complexity. Say, if my part is something like a cylindrical one, and I have a simple standard forms, and then I can easily machine or I can easily go with the formative process. But my product is something like this. So my product is like this. So if you see this product, and if you compare these two products, and of course it is more complex. Why? Because this design is not a conventional design, rather than it's a bionic design. Means the designer might have inspired from the nature or from the cell biology or something like that. It's an organic design or a bionic design. So of course it is very complex. So if the complexity is increased, and then you have to struggle a lot for the formative or a subtractive process. So what is my intention to put this slide is, if you come to the additive manufacturing route, whether your product is a cylindrical standard shape like this, or it is a bionic design, but it doesn't care. So it may treat almost a similar efforts to fabricate whether this design or this design. So that is the biggest advantage once you come to the additive manufacturing route. And of course, when do you choose your additive manufacturing or 3D printing? And of course, if you draw the plot between the complexity and the quantity, so if your complexity is very high and you are looking at relatively a less number of parts, and of course 3D printing will give you the better choice. And if your complexity is medium and the quantity is medium, then of course CNC machining is the right choice for you. And if your complexity is low and the quantity is high, so then of course the investment costing is the right choice. And if complexity of the product is medium and looking for the huge quantity, and of course injection molding is the right choice. But whereas you can integrate these processes with the 3D printing. So in case of injection molding, so I can make a die or I can make a tool through 3D printing. So that is another thing where if you, and of course investment costing. So if you want to make the wax pattern, and of course you can 3D print the wax pattern. So then depends on the situation or the application or the requirement. So then you can choose the appropriate, or you can combine these technologies also as for your requirement. So then what is 3D printing? So what are the various steps involved in 3D printing? Uh, so, uh, so the idea of 3D printing has come again from the nature. Normally, these inventors or the so-called people who invent any technology, definitely they may be inspiring from the nature. Say, for example, how these seashells are formed. These seashells are formed. If you closely watch, you have these layer by layer it got formed. It is not overnight it got formed like this. So over the period of days or a months together, so probably it might have formed layer by layer, and that too it is the nature got 3D printed. So means basically we can put it in that way. So these are the best examples where the nature has printed for us. And of course, we can have one more observation. So, how these rocks are formed? So, these rocks are formed by the erosion of the soil. So, that is not overnight it got formed, right? So, then you have over the period of days together. So, these erosion may happen, the soil got eroded and it may form like layer by layer. So, this is another example where you can find this. So nature has printed these kind of products. And of course, this man called Charles Hull. So you might have inspired from the nature, but the requirement is in 1982 there was a requirement for him to make a prototype rather than to make a plastic part very quickly. So that was the requirement. So requirement or the necessity is the no mother for the innovation, right? You know that. So of course, with the requirement of making plastic parts, a prototype, and then he started experimenting through these kind of systems during 1982, and where he took some epoxy plastic resin, epoxy photosensitive polymer resin, and he has started exposing it to a UV light, and he found that it is getting the liquid is getting converted into solid rather than the solidification is happening because of the UV light it got exposed to the epoxy resin. So that was the origin, or that was the history, or and then this man has filed the patent in 1982 with that idea, and he himself started a company called 3D Systems in 1988. So you are very much popular this technology, you know, the stereolithography operators called SLA. So SLA was the first 3D printing technology. So commercially it is introduced by 3D Systems or by the same guy, the Charles Hull, with the SLA 250 system. So which we can see this is the first mankind 3D printer or the rapid prototyping machine. And incidentally, he invented the STL file. STL file is the de facto standard. So probably, I hope you are taking some lab practices also. So then I think you might have use some kind of open source softwares also to do some modeling of your part, and then further you might have converted as STL file, or it's a triangular mesh. So the STL file is also incidentally he himself now with a project called the Bright Uranium project. So then that STL as invented by this man and with the 3D systems. So that was the rapid prototyping era was started. So with this technology in 1988. So now you are familiar about these terms, right? Rapid prototyping, additive manufacturing, and the 3D printing. So whatever you call this technology, but we need to have a CAD model, or we need to have a digital blueprint to fabricate your a physical object. But first we need to start with a kind of either using some solid modeling techniques like surface model or solid model or whatever it is. So then you have to start with the digital model, and then you fabricate and use it for the application. So that is the one route. Or otherwise, nowadays it's very popular in medical applications also. So then you can start instead of a CAD model, you can start a CT or a MRI scan data. So that is a start point. That is also a digital data, right? So then you can 3D print the bio model where you know this is a conjoined twins. And this is going to be the very complex surgery. Why? Because you have a common neurons and you have a common blood vessels. So then, which we need to use this technology for operating such a complex surgery. So then medical field is also more attractive about 3D printing technology. Why? Because you talk about in a mechanical thing that's a complex product, and this is a complex surgery. The same idea. So where the 3D printing is helpful for the surgeons. And of course, you have another area that is called scanning. And as you know that you have all-in-one with you at your desk. So then you can scan whenever you want, or you can print whenever you want, right? So like definitely 3D scanning is another area, or the reverse engineering is another area where you can get a digital data or a point cloud data or a kind of a digital point cloud data, or further you convert as a CAD model and then you can print it. So that is the another interface through this reverse engineering or digitizing systems. So then you can come to any route, and then we can make a physical object from using that CAD model or a digital model. And coming to the various steps involved in a 3D printing process. And of course, in this process, first we need to identify what will be the application. Say, for example, I want to sip a coffee. So I need to have a mug, a coffee cup, basically. So that is my application. My application is to sip a coffee. So then I can go to any CAD modeling software. Nowadays, these softwares are very handy, and it is a cloud-based, or even it is a browser-based, basically, or even with your cell phone also, you can model very easily nowadays with the free of cost. You have a Google SketchUp, or you have Onshape, and you have other modeling softwares which are open softwares, and that too it's a cloud based or a browser based, in fact. So then we can easily make this kind of a solid model. That's not a big deal now. So once you have a CAD model, so there itself you can convert your save this CAD file into STL, .stl, that is a triangular model. So this triangular model called STL, so you save that. Why? Because 3D printer can understand only the triangular mesh language or the STL file. So then you save then and there in the software itself as a STL file. And in the third step, then you have some interfacing software with each and every printer. So nowadays, these are also open source softwares. So then you have a softwares like a Cura, and you have a Simplifier 3D. So you have a plenty of open source softwares. Even you can use to interface your STL file to the software. Just you import your STL file to any one of these 3D printing interfacing software. in the 3D printing interfacing software, you fix up the process parameters. Like as you know that it is a layered manufacturing, you specify what could be my layer thickness and what could be the speed of my nozzle or a laser or things like that. So then you can specify those process parameters and you generate some kind of a machine setup, something like a G code or a M code in case of a CNC you do. Here, once you generate such kind of a machine setup or cross-sectional data or layer data and send that data instructions to the 3D printer, and in the 3D printer where you were digitally you have done here, and physically it's going to replicate here, so layer by layer. And once you have completed the first layer to the last layer and you take out the part, means we need to remove the part from the machine or the platform or the substrate, and then we need to do some kind of a post processing. Means I have some supports or I have a loose powder and then I need to clean them, and sometimes I need to even use some painting or even machining or even any post processing for enhancing. But in this case, that purely depends on the application. My application is just to sip a coffee. It is not subjected to any loads, vigorous loads. Why? Because it is just for the coffee, then serving the coffee. So then in this case, it doesn't require much of the strength. So then depends on what kind of application I can choose the appropriate post-processing technique. So then my product is ready. So if you take any 3D printing technology, so these 8 steps are common, but raw material and that how the layers are getting stick together, so it may be differ. But for the better understanding, let me play one video here. So this is the FDM technology. This is a very popular technology nowadays. Why? Because this is a most affordable or less expensive technologies among all 7 technologies. So FDM is basically a fused deposition modeling technique. So anyway, just we need to fix the orientation and we need to slice the model into layers. So that's what in the software. So then you will be slicing the model into layers, and then I have some overhang portion and which I need to give some supports. And once you have done the supporting and fixing the orientation and slicing, then we need to generate a tool path, something like a G code. But we are not writing any code here, just the software will automatically generate the code. So that code will be sent to the machine. So once you send that code to the machine, so as I already said, this is FDM technology. The raw material is a filament. Basically, it is a wire or a filament form. So that plastic filament will come and heated rather than it will melted, and it will come in the semi-solid or in the liquefied state, and it will come and fall onto the platform, and further one layer upon other layer, and it will get fused one layer upon other layer. And once the first layer to the last layer is completed, and I have some supports which I have given here. So once I remove that support, so my part you call either it is a prototype or a model or a component or a product. So why? Because nowadays you can use the plastic is also one of the direct end usage parts. So that is about the polymer printing. And nowadays you can even able to print in metals also. So metal printing is happening. So the raw material here may be a powder, which you can see this is the metal part, the stainless steel 174 steel, and where the raw material was taken as a powder, which you can see the powder is the raw material. And of course, so from powder to the product, the metal product like this, we can convert. So how do you convert? Here you may be using a laser to do melting these powder particles, and finally you are going to make this kind of a metal part. So of course, whether it is a polymer or a metal, we need to start with a CAD model. So in the CAD model, we need to slice them, right? So then, but that slicing layer thickness may be less here if you compare with the previous FDM technology. So it depends, like whether you are processing a polymer, metal, composite, ceramic, or even cells, biological cells. So here the recoater will spread the powder particle onto the bed, and laser will come and trace the cross section, which you already done in the in the software. So as for that cross section, so the laser will only melt those powder particles as for the cross section. So one layer is over and it will come down to the next layer, and like that. So the first layer to the last layer. So your laser is going to melt. We can reuse that metal powder actually. So wherever you have from the cake of powder, so then you might have used only a small portion. So then you can reuse that powder. So then you take out the part from the substrate and you remove the supports, either through hand or use some kind of wire cut, or even you can use some hand filing or use some kind of finishing tools to finish, and of course use some kind of a sandblasting or short pinning methods to enhance the surface finish or the quality of the part. So, or even sometimes you may use a furnace treatment also to improve the metallurgical properties, of course. So then this is what you do, either a polymer printing or a metal printing, or even same case for the composite, or same case for the ceramics also. So you can do absolutely and no problem. So then we'll discuss some of the 3D printing processes. So as we have seen the previous video, so we could be able to process polymers is one of the technology, FDM, and you can even process metals, and even some of the technologies like binder jetting, you can process ceramics, and of course you can process composites again from FDM or from binder jetting process. You can even process composites, and not only the standard polymer, metal, ceramic composites, and even you can print some functional materials like electronic uh, materials or even shape memory alloys. Nowadays, you have the smart materials like shape memory alloys, or you have electrogels or any other things which we can even print them. And of course, not only functional materials, we can even print the biological materials, like you have cells or you have tissues, so you can print, or food also can be printed nowadays. So this is the most interesting area where you can even prepare your food also. So to name a few, these are some of the materials. And the raw material form, in the previous video also, which we have seen, the raw material is a powder in one case. In another case, it may be a filament, the FDM technology, and it can be a sheet or even it can be a liquid. And you have 7 classifications broadly by ASTM. But and of course you have different technologies and different proprietary and trademark technologies. But broadly, it should be any one of these 7 processes. And of course, not only the single material, even normally you do in a conventional way, but even you can go with the multi-material objects like you are very much familiar about the graded composition, or FGMs, functionally graded materials. Say I have alloy A and alloy B, and I can vary the composition of B or composition of A. So I can literally produce LIC, so which of different composition of A and B. And even I can go with the metal matrix composites also. It's quite possible with the 3D printing nowadays. And which you can see, you have varied the in the titanium 64, you have varied the vanadium composition. So through that, we can even print the grading of this composition. So like this, you have even the novel materials also. You talk about directed energy deposition. So you can process metals, you can process ceramics. So, but you cannot process polymers here. But you have a bit of all 3D printing technologies are confining particular material. So, a particular class of material, say metal ceramics, is possible with this directed energy deposition. And powder bed fusion, you can process polymers, you can process metals, and of course you can process sand also. And binder jetting, so you can process sand, metal, ceramic. And material extrusion, you can process polymers, food, and living cells, also possible with the material extrusion process. And coming to the material jetting, you can process polymers, wax. So, and coming to the sheet lamination, you can process metal, and you can process organic material like a wood or any natural material is possible through sheet lamination process. And last but not the least, the first process is a VAT photopolymerization process called SLA. SLA, initially it was only for the polymers, but now you can able to even process ceramics also. So these are some of them, or all 7 AM processes with the material compatibility. And then whatever may be the process which we discussed previously, any one of these 7 processes depends on what kind of material you are looking at and what is your application. So then use the 3D printing or additive manufacturing process. So nowadays you're talking about industry 4.0, and your manufacturing facility should be smart enough. So means you must create all the senses, or you must have a in situ monitoring system or a closed loop feedback system, so where we can even closely monitor your process, and if something goes wrong, so can we automatically correct those kind of defects. So that's what so you can have some kind of a smart manufacturing is incorporated. You can have artificial intelligence. You can in fact you can create what you call machine learning, deep learning techniques to understand the process and to automate to automize or to smart make it smart. So then of course we need to have a data analysis, artificial intelligence support. So you can even incorporate these kind of intelligence in your 3D printing technology. And of course, once you have done your product, and post processing is vital in any 3D printing technology. Why? Because supports are new. In case of a traditional, we doesn't have a concept of supports. Either it is a machining or either it is a forming process. But you have a peculiar kind of a stuff here, the support. So of course, which we need to remove the support, but support may not be the mandatory for all the 7 process, but majority of the process it requires supports, but we need to, after processing, we need to remove those supports. And sometimes you may be spending like 70% of your cost towards post processing, either in terms of removing the support or surface finishing, or some defect reduction, means we need to do some heat treatment or hipping, that is hot isostatic pressing, in order to eliminate the internal stresses, or the kind of shrinkage or any kind of a defects. So sometimes you can go with the kind of furnace treatment. And of course, you may go for a non-destructive or destructive testing also. That may lead to some amount of the cost which we need to spend. So what I'm trying to say here is, in a workflow of any 3D printing processes, so you start with your entire process quality control system, like during a processing or post processing. So then we need to check the quality control and workflow optimization. So, and then you have some systems to do this, some softwares, some simulation softwares, or even you can develop your own code to do this kind of in situ monitoring or kind of stuff. And of course, as we are talking about Industry 4.0, and your data should be secured, you must have a blockchain systems to secure your data. Why? Because in 3D printing, the design is crucial. So your design, somebody may theft or somebody may hack. So then everything is open through the digital formats. Then we need to have a kind of a blockchain systems to secure your data. And of course, this is the initial we don't find much of the standards available, like as such you have for the machining, or as such you have for the traditional forming or traditional casting process. But we may have a limited standards here, like ASTM, ISO, or ASM, or DIN standards. But you can find very few standards here. That may be the challenge, whether you are making a good quality product or defect product. Once you have benchmark, or once you have standards, and then you can compare and you can gauge it. But that may be the challenge here, as this technology is new. And of course, the post processing, as I already said, so this is as built, so which we can see there is a metal component, so maybe made out of iron, of the steel, or titanium, or aluminum, whatever it is. So then you can make the supports is also metal of same material. So it is a steel, and then this is also steel. So then how to remove this? Then you have to put a lot of effort to remove that support, and then do some kind of a furnace treatment or post processing, finishing, or blasting or whatever it is, then we need to finally end up this kind of part after post processing. So this is a brief, and then let us come to the next topic on this 3D printing is applications. So far, we have discussed the need for 3D printing and the traditional versus additive manufacturing process, and various steps involved, and various materials and various processes, and then processing, pre-processing, processing, and post-processing. And now we'll find out the applications of this 3D printing or additive manufacturing technology. And of course, you have a plenty of applications. The sky is only the limit. So you have you not only having the applications, you have a unique advantage for each and every application. Say you have a replacement parts, you have a concept models, and you have a functional prototypes, end use parts. So not only prototypes, not only models, and you have a end usage parts and tooling, jigs, fixtures, you can make it, and visual aids, branding, promotion, molds, castings, you can make. And if you see each and every area, like you talk of prototyping as the time is most important. We need to quickly produce our what you call the design development, or the product development should be faster, right? So then definitely 3D printing, we have a less supply chains. So definitely in case of prototyping, you are using your 3D printing, it is more faster and less expensive, and which may allow a complex designs also, which otherwise it is not possible with the conventional process. And of course, aerospace lightweighting is quite possible, and complex designs and spare parts is quite beneficiary for the aerospace industry. And of course, automobile, faster design cycles, cost time savings for the small series productions, and spare parts for the rare vehicles. So that is the key benefits for the automobile industry. And coming to the medical and dental, we can make a patient-specific designs, optimized textures for the bone ingrowth. So we can personalize, we can customize. So you have plenty of benefits when you come to the medical and dental space. And military is another area where we need to have no, the supply chains or less, right? The condensed supply chains. So we need to have a simplified logistics, and quite the 3D printing is apt for this kind of situation, military, for simplifying the logistics or spare part availability in remote areas, or on ship, or seashore, like marine applications also, which we can even take this technology printers to the under the water, sea level. And then of course jewelry is another area where in India, this further surprising, the majority of the 3D printer users are from the jewelry industry. So you have a faster design cycles, and unique and complex designs are the advantage for the jewelry industry. And industrial applications, like we have a faster, less expensive, complex designs are possible. And construction nowadays, it's coming in a big way. You see, as you know that, like a country like India and China, may not be facing a such problem of manpower or a labor. But though nowadays it is very tough to get the labor to make use of. And of course, 3D printing is coming to the rescue. Like it's a construction, or of course architectural applications, it has been there, and the new incumbent is the construction industry, and where again the logistics and simplified transport and unique designs are the concern for the construction or architectural applications. And of course, you have a sporting and clothing, individualization and fashion designing is another area where, and of course, as of now, the fashion designers may be using for the clothing purpose. And very soon we can expect 3D printed clothes also. And of course, electronics is another area where we have some kind of conformal designs, and potentially less expensive and large area of electronics, and some kind of improved performance. You have a plenty of applications, and we are going to get all these benefits once you come to this kind of areas of this 3D printing applications. And as you know that this dentistry is nowadays becoming a digital dentistry. So instead of using the previous practice was the dentist used to use a kind of braces, that is through a wire or a kind of what you call. So normally the dentist orthodontic may use this kind of teeth aligning purpose. So they may use wire or a kind of metal things. But you can have hardly notice if you 3D print a teeth aligners if you use. and hardly you can notice. So means they used to take some kind of impression from the patient. That was the previous scenario. But now that analog has become as a digital, like just you can scan the teeth position. So normally it may go some 6 to 10 sittings. So then the teeth will be set to the normal symmetric position. So then hardly you may use 6 to 10 teeth aligners in order to set the teeth. So then you have a huge potential country like India to have a business setup. And nowadays these 3D printers are very less cost. You have normally use a SLA technology for this. DLP technology, it's very cheap nowadays. You can even have a 2 lakhs or 3 lakhs. So you can have a DLP machine, and the material is also now it's very cheap. And you can even start some kind of a business under this domain. So that is another business potential. And of course, you have a hearing aid. For a hearing aid, normally that is a standard sizes and shapes. Normally you can go with the L size, M size, or XL or double XL. But 3D printing and 3D scanning will enable you to make a customized the size of the canal of a patient. They will scan the root canal, and then you can print as for the size, shape, and geometry of the patient. So you have a mass customized means millions of people may require these kind of solutions. So you have another big advantage if you come to use a scanning technique, modeling, and further use SLA or a DLP technology to print it. It will give you a mass customized solution, very good business strategy so to adapt. And of course, in the medical, one more area is implantation. So we can mimic the bone. Say, for example, you have a chest implant here. So the chest or even a spinal cage, which you can see, this is a spinal cage. This spinal cage, which is almost mimicking the bone. Bone is normally a porous in nature, maybe 60%, 70%, again, depends on the patient, age, sex, and so on. So, but you could be able to mimic the porosity or the anatomy of a patient. So it is almost like substituting the actual bone, um, uh, but functionality and then how it is getting integrated. So you may have a bit of challenges, but though it is a quite attractive field where the implantation will be done to 3D printed parts. And of course, planning the surgery. You have a complex surgery, so then we can use these models for planning the surgery or rehearsal the surgery. That is another area where 3D printing is helpful for a doctor or a surgeon. And orthopedic casts. This is another area where we can have a lightweight structure. So then we can make lightweight structures through 3D printing. So why? Because you are mimicking again a bone or a lattice structure, so where it is less weight. And you can use a personalized medicines also for drug delivery systems. You can customize the dosage to the patient. So that is another area where 3D printing is helpful for the medicine in general. And coming to the aerospace, so aerospace, a major concern in the aerospace, as you know, that it's going to be the lightweighting. So lightweighting and the number of components. Say, for example, GE is claiming. So this is the 3D printed nozzle. So, but earlier it was 20 parts, but now from 20 parts to the traditional design to the three additive manufactured design, so they could able to make only single part. So 25% weight reduction. As you know, the advantage of reducing the weight in an aircraft, so we can have a double benefit. So you can even save the fuel by lightweighting the aircraft, right? And then even it is a 5 times durable than the previous design. So like that, you have plenty of advantages when you come to the aviation or aerospace industry. And this is another case study where you will be using gas turbine engine part as a 3D printed metal part. And of course, lightweighting is a bionic design, right? So means you will be inspiring the nature or the bird or something like that. So which you can further scoop out the material. You can reduce the weight. So it is either from the Boeing or Airbus. So they are claiming it is 15% lighter than the traditional designs. So like that, we have plenty of applications. And again, GE is coming in a big way. So not only printing the cabin parts, even they are venturing to print the almost one third part of the the aircraft engine. This is one of the GE's catalyst engine. So they have 3D printed almost 1/3 of the metal parts. It's exclusively metal parts I'm talking about. So that to a gas turbine engine parts. So that they have started the 2015, and now they are almost now recently they got a certification for these kind of parts for from the Federal Aviation Authority, that is FAA. So they got the certification also. So very soon we are going to see these kind of the advantage here is so traditional way, then we can reduce a lot of supply chain here, rather than traditionally we have to identify what kind of a machine and who is the supplier and who is the manufacturer, who is the designer. So you have to have a lot of supply chain issues in traditional manufacturing. But here it's straightforward. You have a metal printer, so you have a material, so you have a design. Your job is done. You don't have a much supply chain here, and of course you have a more the number of components also reduced here, as we know that the previously 20 parts are reduced to single part. And of course here also they are claiming almost like 10 to 20% of the parts, number of parts I'm talking about, the part count is reduced, and of course the weight is also reduced, and of course the fuel burning performance is improved, and more power, 10% power than the previous engines. That's what it's coming in a big way. And of course in aerospace, you have a kind of a combustion a fuel injector, where you can see it is a inside the fuel injector in a aircraft. So which you can see there is a lattice structure here. Otherwise you cannot even dare to machine or dare to cast it, these kind of complex lattice structures. Why? Because the advantage of lattice structure, it's the lightweighting and also improving the cooling. Why? Because it's you are operating at maybe 1000 or 2000 degrees centigrade. So then we need to have the improved cooling. Then that is because of these lattice structures, you could be able to improve the cooling. You are going to get a double benefit. You are improving the performance and you are reducing the weight. Through weight reduction, you can get more fuel efficiency. So, and then of course this is a nickel based alloy. They used to do a CNC machining, but now they 3D printed. So that's what we can see a lot of developments as far as aerospace industry. And of course heat exchangers, the same logic will work out. So we can make a lattice structure, so which is of very complex, rather than the bio inspired designs. It's a more lightweighting, and not only lightweighting, as you know that heat exchangers, the basic requirement is to extract the heat. And nowadays people are able to print even copper also. Earlier it was a big problem for printing copper, but now people are able to even print in copper. As you know that the copper is supposed to be the good conductor among all metals. So of course, which this is some of the 3D printing applications in, of course, jewelry. As I already mentioned, in India, you have a very good scope. This is only from the Indian statistics only. So you have a plenty of customized designs. Normally you do with investment casting, that's a wax pattern or sacrificial pattern through 3D printing, and then you can cast it. Otherwise now you can have the 3D printers can print directly even gold in some extent, and then you can even print silver or platinum, titanium. So then you can directly or indirectly through investment casting, so you can make your customized designs. And of course automobile is the basic idea. As you know that wherever you have some small series F1 car, basically this is F1 car engine, or even gearbox also, people are able to make entire gearbox of Formula 1 car, and even a traditional passenger cars also. And but here I have listed some of the automobile applications, like spare parts or small series or customization, tooling, design cycles, and quality enhancement. So you have plenty of advantages. And coming to the tooling area, where you can make a sand cores or sand molds, and from the sand cores through 3D printing, and further you can cast in metal. So this is through binder jetting process. You can save almost like 75% of the cost if you go with the sand casting. So that is the cost savings. And of course you may have on par with the casted product, you are going to get the properties also. And you have a wax patterns and further ceramic shells and metal parts and some tooling applications. um, And as I mentioned, like this is going to be the part consolidation. So 100 parts, now it is made single part. So that is only thanks to 3D printing technology. Otherwise, it should have been 100 parts. This is the traditional design. Normally, they used to do brazing and EDM. So then it used to take 8 months. But now, 100 parts, now it's a single part. And instead of months, it's a few weeks to complete entire workflow. So not only that, 95% weight reduction from the traditional design to the 3D printed design, and 20% reduction in the production cost, and 75% of non-recurring costs are eliminated. So this is what where you can find plenty of applications. And nowadays you can find these 3D printed lenses also. So you can print lenses like normally traditionally if you do, and polishing is a major challenge in the traditional lens making. But here it doesn't require any polishing, so it is 3D printed. So you have plenty of advantages once you come to the 3D printing route. So you have a personalization of the shoes like Adidas and Nike. So they are coming out with the printing lightweight lattice structure based soles, right? And then maybe for the athletics or maybe for the diabetic patients also, or some arthritis kind of patients where it requires some kind of special design and special, as you know that you have a different pressure points for those kind of patients, then definitely it's going to give a good solution. And of course you have a 3D printed fashion industry, like it is inspired from the nature or bio inspired designs. So then you can 3D print these. And of course you have art application, so where you have 3D printing applications. And then you have some futuristic applications also, like um, now people are even able to print the organs, 3D printed organs. So how do you do they do? So they will take the cell, or they will take the living cell of the patient, and then they will put it in an incubator. They will do cell culturing rather than, and they will make this kind of a ink or this kind of thing, and then they will inject into the patient body again. So means either it is a cardiac ventricles or any no complex organs people are targeting. But anyway, this is at the initial stage. But some simple organs like you have skin and you have blood vessels, people are able to transplant, or people are able to repair those kind of simple organs. But complex organs, it may take time. And of course two extreme sizes of the parts which we are going to no print, the sizes I am talking about. So you can print one extreme size is you can make a micro sized components, that is from 2 photon polymerization, where you can see 10 micron scale. So we can print even a micro sized, as of now it may be nano in future, but as of now it may be a micro sized products in one side. And you have buildings or the construction, or like process like contour crafting, so which you can even construct a building like this. So then that is the biggest scale, right, which you can have. So under the construction application, which you can print them, the construction industry. And of course you can have a futuristic application, like which you can have some robots can be used to integrate your 3D printing process, to integrate to print like kind of structures like this. That the robots got integrated with your 3D printing systems to print structures like this, maybe from Nanyang Technology. They are developing Nanyang Technology University, Singapore. They are developing, and of course GXN Denmark. They are integrating unmanned aerial vehicles to the 3D printing. So as you know, that the advantage of these robotic robots or unmanned aerial vehicles. So you can crawl and you can swim and you can fly, right? So during any one of these actions, even it can 3D print. So that is the basic idea, like where you could be able to integrate two cutting edge technology like robotics or unmanned aerial vehicles to the 3D printing. So that is going to be the wonderful idea to work in the futuristic applications. And let me come to the other application, as we are much of the people from the academic background. So how this 3D printing technology is helpful for the education as such. So as we know that it's going to be the a tool for nowadays you have these 3D printers like DIY kinds of 3D printers, thanks to the RepRap movement where this the patent of Scott Crump got expired after 30 years. So then you can have a open sourced kind of architecture. You can buy these stepper motors, or you can buy these no the kind of stepper motors, or kind of any actuators to buy them, and then you can integrate them, and of course software and a kind of a firmware, or nowadays it's a free of cost, like you have a open source softwares, or in terms of plugins also available nowadays. So then that's not an issue to integrate your software with the hardware and the firmware. So then you have this advantage. You can build your 3D printer if you spend say 20,000 rupees or 30,000 rupees or so. So you can build your own 3D printer, and you can start printing once you have a CAD model. For CAD models also, we will not design right from the scratch. So probably the organizers might have already given some kind of forums where you can download your CAD models as a free of cost, maybe some kind of a repositories from Thingiverse or a GrabCAD or My Mini Factory. So you have plenty of repositories or the online communities, 3D printing communities. They will be keeping these designs open. So even you can download some standard designs, or even you can customize them, and you can use it for your education purpose or any other purpose you want to use it. And let me come to the what we do at NIT Warangal. So what we do with this 3D printing. So let me give a small, just it's a glimpse of some of the activities. Let me put it here. But coming to the facilities, as far as the facilities are concerned, so we have a metal 3D printer that is from 3D Systems. And of course, the NITTTR is also having the same technology. And of course, their machine may be bigger than us. So our is 100 and theirs is 200 model. But it's the same working principle is same. That is a powder bed fusion technology from 3D Systems, which can process steel, aluminum, which can process cobalt, chrome, titanium, nickel-based alloys like Inconel. So then you can very much process these metal on these metal 3D printer, the metal powders, or as such you can develop your own material to process on this metal 3D printer. And of course, we have a Stratasys make FDM machines, FDM Dimension series and FDM Mozo, and we have Ultimaker 2 Plus machine, and we have a couple of scanners also. And of course, we have a muffle furnace to treat the 3D printed metal parts, and of course, short peening machine. And we have a specific 3D printing softwares for doing some kind of a medical research, which we do. That is a Mimix. We have a Thematic, and we have a Magic software, and we have a Catalyst, and we have a 3D Export. Of course, 3D Export is will come with this metal 3D printer. So where you can do a modeling, you can do generate supports, you can do simulations also. Like there is a lot of stuff involved in this 3D Export software. So which is exclusively for metal 3D printing applications. So, and further, if you are interested, you can visit my YouTube channel, that is AM Lab NIT Warangal. If somebody is interested to know about the 3D printing activities at NIT Warangal. And coming to the academic side, actually, we are the first people in India to start an 2-year PG program, that is MTech in additive manufacturing. So this we started with the CMTI collaboration in 2014-15. So if somebody is interested, so you can visit the www.nitw.ac.in for the complete syllabus. Nowadays, AICTE is now making like compulsory, or rather than optional BE honors or minors in all 9 thrust areas. As you know that additive manufacturing or 3D printing is one amount. If somebody is looking such kind of activity, and we at NIT Warangal, we are open. We have already developed around 27 credits in the first semester and 25 in the second semester. So then we are able to help you out to frame a syllabus if somebody is looking. So, and of course, let me give some glimpse of some of the student projects and some of the research work what we have done at NIT Warangal. So this is one of the student project. The idea here is normally you have a diesel engine manifold, intake manifold we are targeted. So then instead of a conventional design, the straight designs, and the students, they tried with a kind of a different configurations of this inlet manifold in order to improve the volumetric efficiency of the engine. So just an idea like where you can integrate your 3D printing technology in your student projects or in as such, like how in an automobile engineer or kind of IC engines. So just a thought, like you can even use for any other application where it can be appropriate. Even as I already mentioned, so you can, if you want to make a metal part, if you don't have a metal 3D printer, so then we can even make a kind of a sacrificial pattern or a master pattern to make a mold. Say, for example, which you can see, this is and one of the automobile engine cooling channel, that is a fin, cooling fin. So this is the design, and this is the ABS pattern. And further, we have casted through no investment casting, so which we could able to make a metal part, cast iron. So this is what where you can even integrate your technology for the tooling application in terms of investment casting or in terms of injection molding machine and so on and so forth. And one of the student has made and he has designed and fabricated a windmill. So you know these kind of aerofoil designs, and of course you can be connected to the battery and things like that. So we can use this technology for a student projects. And one of the student made an unmanned aerial vehicle, so where except electronics, and we can frame, and then you can quadcopter, these things can be 3D print, and then further you can see you can lattice structured, and where further you can lightweighting the weight of the payload of unmanned aerial vehicle. So it's very much we can use this technology for printing unmanned aerial vehicle structures. And of course, this is one of my BTech student. They have done this prosthetic hand. So these prosthetics hands, like which you can even customize as for the amputee, right? So, and of course, which we need to start with a CAD model of the hand or the prosthetic, of course. And you have to start with any CAD modeling technique. For example, maybe ProE or maybe SolidWorks, or nowadays you can have open source softwares also to do this. So, and once you're done, and next step is to go and print these finger joints or whatever your prosthetics which you have designed, and further it got 3D printed. And then you have an EMG sensor, and these students are very much smart, right? How you can use this technology for and kind of EMG, taking an EMG input, the sensor input from the normal hand, and of course further it will be taken from the amputee, or the person who got who required a prosthetic hand, an artificial hand to be fitted. So then even it can be tested with that amputee to use this the prosthetic hand. So which we can again give this kind of EMG sensor input, and where we can see this can be even still we are at the a prototyping stage, but still we need to improve some kind of things to do that, but we are working on that. But just an idea like how this 3D printing can be helpful for the student to use it for their BTech project or MTech project or things like that. So then being an teacher or a student, then which we can use this technology. And of course, one of my other student, so he made entire this robotic arm. So we can make design these grippers and these all these links. So through 3D printing, and of course you start with CAD modeling of these parts, and do CAD modeling, either use any software like Creo or any other modeling software. So then we can make all these parts, and further you can 3D print them. And once you 3D print them, and then you assemble the entire setup, which you have the gripper, including gripper and everything. So, and then of course this is the full assembled view of that one, and we can interface with the microprocessor controller kind of stuff, like you can do some kind of Arduino programming, right? So you can do Arduino programming to integrate or to make it this robot as a working or pick and place robot. So this may be we tried initially with a manual option, and of course these ports also available from some other sources or the open source things also, which you can do kinematic simulations. So that can be taken the open sources also. That's what we have done, and then we made it as a more automated thing also here. So where it can pick and place the robo is picking and placing the kind of pallets or the kind of work pieces like this. So just an idea I'm giving here, like which normally we do use this technology for the project's sake. And we do a kind of medical research also with the craniofacial surgeons, where we need to even which we need to um, we are using this mimic software for doing modeling of this kind of customized implants. And of course the challenge here is the how to mimic the bone which a patient is lost during the accident. So then how do, and the biggest challenge is the thickness of the shell, the skull, sorry, the skull is not uniform. So that is the biggest challenge. And then how do you make an implant and which is getting fitted? So why? Because this is the most critical part, where because you have a brain here and you have a fluid called cerebrospinal fluid, so which will pump from the brain to the spine. So then this should be a watertight implant, and it should not get leaked, right? So that is the biggest challenge to do that. And of course it should be taken from the patient data and CT data, and further we do model, and then further we have done fabricated, and in fact which we have used for planning the surgery for an craniofacial surgeon. And of course we have done a good amount of developing algorithms. Normally the traditional conventional proprietary algorithms may have very easy to do a kind of a mirroring option, means if the defect is a symmetric defect, but we come out with an defect which is beyond the midline also, which we have published in journals also. These data, if somebody is interested, you can go through it, like say, which we have developed own algorithms to develop these kind of surfaces, like nerves based surfaces, and how to fix the fixation points in such a way that your pressure of that fluid is uniform. So then we have done a lot of study on this, like simulation analysis, and of course fabricated these kind of implants. As you know that closely, if you watch your skull, the skull bone is like a combination of a spongy bone and the hard bone, cartile bone, which you have a cartile bone on either side, and you have a spongy bone inside, and which is a porous in nature. No other way which we are going to mimic this kind of a bone anatomy. That is only possible through 3D printing. You cannot machine this kind of porous structure, right? Combinedly, like say you have a hard surface here and you have a spongy surface in between. So that is the beauty of this 3D printing technology. And of course, it's quite suitable for the dentist, where you can use this biomodels to plan his surgery or rehearsal his surgery. So where you need to implant, what will be the size of an implant, and what could be the orientation that he has to make a drill and fix the implant. So then that's what where you can use this 3D printing technology for planning the surgery or to placement of these implants during the surgery. So then you can use this technology in that sort also. When we have done reconstructive surgeries also with the oral maxillofacial surgeon, So normal person, it should be a semicircle kind of a configuration. But because of a defect or some birth defect, so which we can see there is a asymmetricity. So you have a beautiful medical procedure called distractive osteogenesis. The idea here is we need to stretch the bone. So if you see, this ramus height is different than this one. So it should be stretching. So this length of the, or otherwise, let me twist this. So this twisting will be happening. So how much we need to twist, and how much we need to, no, extending this ramus up to this length. So that is the idea. And then how to do that, and then all that calculations and on all that measurements and all that things, we can do it on these biomodels which are derived from the patient, which you can see. So this is the initial patient condition before the surgery, and this is the after the surgery, where you can see the kind of bone reconstruction has happened. So from initial to the final. So this is what normally you do for oral maxillofacial surgeon. And we have taken other case. This is the cancerous tumor because of using the tobacco products, which you can see there is a cancer a bone, and because of that tobacco, if that fellow might have keeping that tobacco here, which we can see it got affected by the cancer. So then, of course, normally they use some kind of a standard plates to fit on this, and they you do a bone grafting. But here, what we can do is we can indigenous or we can customize the implants, so can be developed and can be printed, and it will be fitted during the surgery. So this is another area where you can even use implants to implant inside the body. And of course, this is another case study. So where we are successful in implanting in this case, this is one of the TMJ reconstruction. So where it requires a kind of a distractor, and this distractor calculations will be based on the model which we have derived from the patient, and which you can see during the surgery. So it got the bone got cut open, and then this is a distractor, and the bone will have a beautiful mechanism of by natural growth. So then we have this distractor or this device to control or to guide that growth. And this is what the during the surgery where we can see this is what it's going to be. We need to cut this portion. Why? Because of that fusing, and we need to cut this joint, and virtually and physically, rather than it's going to be the scenario during the surgery. So whatever implants we designed and fabricated, so it is fitted, and it's fixed here through the guides. With the help of the guides and screws, it will be fitted onto the lower jaw as well as upper jaw, and this is what it's going to be. And this is what, and we have filed the patents also for this kind of thing. And this is another case study where we have successful in implanting, and this is a customized implant. Why? Because he has broke his bone as well as the teeth. So the challenge here is then how to fix these what you call the implants here. That is the biggest challenge. But anyway, we have done with this 3D printing, and we have done exhaustive work on even on the metal 3D printing. So in order to optimize the process parameters of DED system. So this actually, we don't have this facility. We work with the RRCAT. They have this DED system. And we have done good experimentation, and we have done some simulations also. So how to improve these properties by experimenting several process parameters like laser power, scan speed, strategy, the filling strategy, so on and so forth. And we have published also. If somebody is interested, you can refer. And even we have done a lot of post processing of these steel. We have worked, and we have even working on some other alloys also. So the basic idea here is to post processing, which we can see the ferrite and austenitic structure is now is purely it is going to be the austenitic structure. So after doing a heat treatment normalizing process, and where we can enhance, this is as built, and this is after at 1073 and 1273 degrees K, and which we can see either in terms of wear property or a kind of other microstructural properties and mechanical properties got enhanced. So this is what, and let me come to the last part of my presentation, So that is the how this technology is helpful for the COVID situation. So as we know that these are the most demanded um, like goggles or like face shields, right? So once you have a 3D printer at your home, and definitely even you could able to print all these things from your home itself. Why? Because these designs are open sourced. You can download as a free of cost by visiting some of the repository kind of 3D printing communities. You can print, or if at all if you want to customize as for your size, that also can be done. So where you can use the 3D printing for safety goggles, masks, or shields, and even stopgap masks. So where you can install these 3D printers even into the hospital premises, and then you can print, and then you can eliminate the contamination. Otherwise, we don't know where it's getting printed and whether it's got contaminated. But as we know that 3D printing allow you to compress your supply chain, so directly you can install these in the hospitals and you can get it printed. And people, as you know, that people are looking for an alternative for the ventilators. Even it is quite possible to use the 3D printing technology either in terms of printing the masks or valves for PEEP valves. So where we need to know patients who required a kind of oxygen supply. So then we can very much design and then fabricate these kind of masks or valves which are connected to the oxygen valves. So then these are and depends on the patient condition, but not all 100% patients require the ventilator. But some people may manage with the oxygen also cylinder, or giving some kind of exhaling kind of a stuff. That is very much possible. 3D printing is helping in the direction. And of course, you do print respirators. This is from HP. So HP, they are even recently entered into the 3D printing with the multi-jet fusion technology. Even in India also, they got some collaboration, HP and some Indian collaborator. Even in India also, you can find these kind of respirators, and which is connected with the HEPA filters. All these are 3D printed respirators. And do print the kind of mask valves, and which is connected through the oxygen through a kind of blowers to supply, and which you can see these valves are 3D printed. And of course, and not only that, even you have these what oxygen valves which is fitted to the ventilators. So these are also printed. As you know that it requires maybe 200 300 pieces per day. So that is the demand. Then you can even 3D print these things. And of course, the other area is the nasal swabs for doing a rapid test kind of applications. So these rapid tests, you can even print, which you can see these are the diagnostic nasal swabs. So, and this is not a big investment we need. This is basically printed on a desktop SLA or DLP machine. So once you know these designs are available, and they will be, the 3D printing community will be sharing to the hospital people to print them. Once you have this kind of a desktop printers, you can print in a single batch maybe 200 or 250. So that even universities and 3D printing communities are coming forward to share these kind of designs to print them for the rapid tests. And this is where the India, which we need these kind of rapid tests should be done. And of course, we can see nowadays in Amazon, so you can find these kind of but you can find even from the Materialize some website, you can download these free of cost. Once you have a 3D printer, you can print them as for your configuration of your door or whatever multi-purpose for handling the things you can do. And as already mentioned, 3D printing is coming in a big way in the construction industry. So this is one of the company from Vinson, Chinese company. They have printed these quarantine booths with the power supply and the water supply to these quarantine booths. So this is 3D printed booths. And of course, as I already mentioned, unmanned aerial vehicle for the surveillance or for sanitizing purpose. So the role of 3D printing, we can further lightweight the structures, either the electronic the housing, battery housing, so which we can lightweight them. And of course, the ventilator splitters is another area where people 3D printing community is working a lot in this direction, where the ventilator, single ventilator, can it be served a minimum of 2 and maximum of 4 patients. So where we can see right now it is serving 3 patients with a single ventilator. Normally one ventilator, one patient, but here, so then we could have some idea to under this pandemic situation, how this 3D printing or in general any technology can be explored, to save the lives of the patients, COVID patients. And of course, people are looking to converting the manual ventilators into a more automated ventilators, either through 3D print and then kind of some electronics, motors, things like that. And then people are able to do that one also. The people are looking for wherever the possible ways to get the ventilators or the ventilator components or more automated fashion. And finally, so even you can print the lungs, the affected lungs, the COVID-19 patient, where we can see the infection on his lungs. So these are the 3D printed models. So normally they do see on the MRI scans or a kind of the 2D images they used to manage. But once you have a 3D printer, so which beautifully you can print the kind of infection, how much infection, where he got infected, his lungs, and neurovascular structures. So that is the beauty of this 3D printing. So let me conclude here. So what could be the future of this 3D printing technology? So far we have discussed several applications, which includes the COVID-19 application. So what could be the future? So the future definitely it's going to be a kind of one dimension extra, that is 4D printing. People are already, MIT has coined this 4D printing. So what do you mean by a 4D printing? So normally you have 1 dimension, 2 dimension, 3 dimension. But what about the fourth dimension? Fourth dimension may be the time. So with respect to time, your 3D printed structures, normally it is a static structure. But whereas 4D printed parts, it will become more intelligent or more dynamic structures. How it is possible? You must have a smart material or shape memory polymers or hydrogels, and you must have some other stimula like temperature, water, energy. So to transform 3D printed dynamic structures over the period of time. So it is getting transformed. Either it's a medical application or a non-living application, whatever it is. But that is the beauty of this 3D printing technology. So where we can even experience 4D printing very soon. It's already is there, but that is at the initial stage. You have a lot of modeling. Somebody is interested, you can go and visit MIT website to know about this 4D printing. So let me conclude this session. Like whatever we are seeing, the applications just is a tip on an iceberg, like models, prototypes, master patterns, plastic aircraft parts, or the end user consumer products. So you have a plenty of things to yet to come, like unimaginable applications, human organs, smart and intelligent structures, printing in outer space, living tissues, food, clothing, integrated electronics, batteries, electronics, custom prosthetics, metal aircraft parts. Of course, people are now able to do it, and metal implants, tooling inserts, low cost consumer products, so on and so forth. So before concluding or before winding up, I would like to acknowledge some of my collaborators, which I otherwise I could not do it with my medical partners like Shekhar Reddy and Aditya Mohan from Panniya Dental College and Research Center at Hyderabad for the oral maxillofacial cases, and Mahesh from the Narayana Dental College for the dental cases, and couple of DST and SCRB projects for finance towards implants design placement or software purchase or hardware purchase. So I would like to acknowledge these two sources, SARB and DST. And of course, last but not the least, the UG, PG, and PhD scholars. You might have seen the citations of those research papers by the PhD or PG, UG students. So I would like to acknowledge people who involved my students under this. And let me summarize and let me conclude. So whatever we have done for the past 1.5 hours or so, so we have started with the importance of 3D printing under Industry 4.0 and conventional versus additive manufacturing and steps in 3D printing processes and 3D printing processes, various 3D printing processes and applications of 3D printing processes and 3D printing activities at NIT Warangal and 3D printing in COVID-19, like in terms of PPE kits or in terms of ventilator parts, diagnostic nozzle swabs, and future directions of 3D printing. So that's what. And before concluding, somebody is interested where I can find these resources. Like, so if you are looking for some kind of a service globally, you have 3D systems. So they have a global service. And even in India also, you can find some of the services maybe through 3D systems or HP, or even 3D, maybe with the Indian agents they may deal. And then you have a 3D experience. 3D hubs is another service provider, and Proteek is Shape Waves is another service provider. Protolabs, and you have iMaterialize, Stratasys, you have Jebel, and you have a lot of service providers across the globe. And where can you find the resources, or where can you find the journals or the literature or the status of this 3D printing across the globe? So you can have all 3DP, and you have a 3D printing industry. So these two, and Wallace report, and is another area where you can find a good stuff, and TCT, and you have manufacturing tomorrow. Like that, you have plenty of resources available across the globe. And finally, if somebody is looking for some kind of conferences or trade shows, you have a Formnext. It is the world biggest AM conference. And of course, you have other trade shows, maybe inside 3D printing, AMUZ, Rapid, TCT, and other conferences. And that's all my presentation. Let me hand over to the organizers to have a question and answers. Yeah, I would like to hand over to Dr. Rao.
Okay, Dr. Ravi Kumar, thank you so much. You have presented a very nice presentation today regarding biomedical applications of rapid prototyping. If you have any kind of queries, just let us see. Madam, देखिए chat box में कोई questions है क्या?
Sir, अभी तक तो नहीं है. So participants, if you have, okay. There is one question. What about the mechanical strength of the 3D printed parts as compared to the conventionally made?
Yeah. So yeah, it's a very good question. Actually, if you put it in the way, like say you have we are not there to compare with the machining. I can honestly obey that. Why? Because so you can, let me put it in this way, like you can compare the 3D printed parts versus casting and forging. Say you have one part is made with the casting, and the same part if you made with forging, and same part if you made with 3D printing. So you can get the mechanical properties as well metallurgical and other properties. So it is almost fitting in between casted and in between forging. Means normally, as you know, that you will get better properties in forging than the casting, but 3D printing definitely, so it will have a place to sit in between casting and in between the casting and forging. So definitely there is a place for the 3D printed parts in between the casted, on par with the casting property, casted part properties, and maybe bit inferior than forged component. Yeah, so that is the order of the, but you cannot compare with the machining. But whatever I am telling, so it is after post processing, that is doing after doing furnace treatment, or after doing a kind of polishing or whatever post processing, and depends on the application also. We are looking for, but definitely it's going to be the properties you are going to get is on par with the casting, and it may be a bit inferior than forged part. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Is there any side effects of 3D printing?
Side effects in medical? Maybe medical. They want to, you want to ask. Maybe I can understand side effects in the sense, like maybe his question may be pertaining to the implants, probably. So implants side effects, actually we are not using all the materials to implant. So say you maybe, once you come to the medical 3D printing route, that too you are talking about implants. So you have a less choice than the engineering or non-medical applications which you can print in different materials. But whereas coming to the medical application scenario, so the material should be FDA approved, means as you know that the FDA will be giving approvals for the materials which doesn't have any side effects. So means where it's good in biocompatible, bioresorbive, and bioabsorbive. So you have 5 to 6 properties which FDA will be, once you submit the proposal saying that this I have developed the material for the implantation. So then definitely it should be certified by the FDA, that is a Food and Drug Administration, and appropriate authorities for giving the certification and clearances. So definitely it is not just like that you can print the as you wish whatever the material, but definitely it is FDA approved. So to name a few, like titanium 64, and you have a cobalt chrome alloy, and you have stainless steel, and you have some that is in the metal area. And of course you may have polymers like a PEEK, or you may have PET, and you may have even ceramics like a hydroxyapatite, or maybe other ceramic materials. So those are the FDA approved. So it means it is not, doesn't have side effects. So then only you have to choose those materials, and you have to follow the kind of a norms or the certifications. So it will be up to the FDA approvals. So definitely it is not going to be the side effects. Why? Because it's already proven materials which you are going to use for the implantation. So you have to choose such kind of a material which is compatible with the 3D printing machine. That is also another constraint which we need to look at. So, and of course it should be biocompatible, and it should be bio FDA approved for doesn't having any side effects or whatever. Osseointegration is the major concern, or the major property, or the major characteristic of your biomaterial. Yeah, then we have to see in that way. Yeah. I hope I have answered your question.
So, sir, are there any limitations to 3D printing?
Limitations as such, limitations in the sense, you want to put it in that way, like I can limitations as far as complexity is concerned, there is no limitation, but cost may be the one. We can put it under the heading of limitation. Maybe the problem or disadvantage or limitation, maybe the cost. Especially metal 3D printing is still is a costly, but polymer printing is not a costly. And maybe if you want to put it in that way, as I already mentioned, like you cannot compete the properties as a traditional manufacturing machining techniques which you can, but you cannot no but as I already mentioned, the complexity, when you don't come to the additive manufacturing route, if your model is very simple, so you cannot exploit the 3D printing power or the beauty. So whenever you have a complex design, and which is otherwise not possible with the conventional manufacturing, so definitely that the 3D printing, if you listen my initial slides, so definitely it's wherever you have a bionic designs, or wherever you have topologically optimized, or wherever you have a kind of a cell cultured designs, or the topologically optimized designs. So that those are, otherwise you cannot make it through traditional manufacturing. So definitely you have to come only whenever you have a complex designs with you. Otherwise you cannot no compare with the traditional uh, practices. That purely depends on your application, and the complexity, and what kind of requirement you are looking for your product. So if it is not possible through conventional, then it is the best choice for the additive manufacturing. But don't come to the simple nut and bolt if you want to fabricate. It's better go with the conventional practice. So limitation as such, whatever you imagine, you can print it, but cost may be the concern which we need to take into account. And you do cost justify with the traditional practice. You do come chalk it out, what could be the cost of this product, and then 3D printing route, what could be the cost, and whether the application is demands or such kind of luxury, then you can do. But coming to the lot of limitations in case of a traditional manufacturing process, if you have a bionic designs, you cannot fabricate in a conventional manufacturing practice. Like that is the right way to come to the 3D printing. You have such kind of a situation. I hope I answered your question.
So, sir, there is another question.
Mm-hmm.
What comparative conclusions can be drawn from FDM-made polymer composites and that made by injection molding as far as the morphological and mechanical properties are concerned?
Yeah, of course. Of course, if you want to put it in that way. So, here, so injection molding machine, okay, how do you make your injection molding machine? Of course, through machining if you do. So what I can put it in that way here is, so no, my answer for your question is, so your design, your die is made out of, as you know that if somebody is working in the tool making and tool designing, you know the difficulty of tool design and tool fabrication, taking a long route to make your die design and die fabrication. At least it may take 3 to 4 months, and again depends on the complexity and things like that. So minimum we need to talk about traditional injection molding practice, traditional tool making practice. So anyway you have to talk about in terms of your time scales or in terms of months, but not in terms of days or in terms of weeks. So I can put it in that way. So what benefit if you are going to get out of 3D printed scenario if you come to the tool making? So that is definitely in terms of your the time saving is nothing but a cost saving, and the properties which you are going to get, it's same. What I'm trying to say, you are going to make your die, your tool through 3D printing. If you could do it, why? Because in a conventional way, you have a lot of difficulties for the conformal cooling channels. As we know that if somebody works on the in the space of the tool making and tool designs, so you know that the difficulty of the kind of the cooling channels which you do traditionally do direct drills in a straight line manner. But once you come to the additive manufacturing route, so you are going to enhance your performance rather than the conventional die making. You can reduce your cycle time if you have the conformal cooling channel. So you can reduce a lot of defects, like in terms of your what you call the shrinkage or a warpage, or a kind of defects normally you encounter during a conventional injection molding machine. So definitely you can have a better enhancements of these areas where you can not only my conclusion after talking about 5-10 minutes. So definitely my conclusion is 3D printing will give you the better properties as such, in terms, as I already mentioned, in terms of cooling channels, where you can extract the heat much, and where you can minimize a lot of errors or the voids or whatever you encounter through traditional tool making. So in that way you are going to get these kind of benefits, rather than my conclusion is definitely you are going to get a better properties and enhanced performance of your products. I can put it in that way if you integrate your 3D printing in your tool making, like injection molding practice. Yeah. I hope I have answered your question. Hello?
So, participants, do you have any more queries? If you have, you can write in the chat box. So, I think there are no more queries. They are not writing anything.
Okay, then no more questions. Then let me thank the organizers, Professor Rao, and the director of NITTR, Chandigarh, for giving me this opportunity. So thank you one and all. Yeah, thank you, madam. Thank
Yeah,
you. I
thank you,
can.
Ravi sir, for such an informative session. And now we are going to close the session. Participants, tomorrow's session will be going to start at 10. So be present 10 minutes before. So thank you all for participating. Thank you, Ravi sir.